Hey there. So now we're in episode 7B of Weiser Wednesday, continuing our discussion on the strategy management system. Now, when we started, we focused on vision and mission, and then we moved over to alignment. Today, we're going to focus on resource allocation and governance. So let's talk about resource allocation first. So when we think about resource allocation, most commonly we think about money, but you have to think about time, attention, in terms of, how much attention can you give something, your mind share, and also, of course, money. And when you think about it, a lot of times people think about resource allocation as budgeting. So we can start there for a second. Do you have a budget-driven strategy where the budget constrains and drives the strategy? Or do you have a strategy-driven budget, which is what is actually preferred? Now, when you think about resource allocation and you think about the budget, does it reflect the priorities of the organization? And if it doesn't, what are the issues? Where are the pitfalls? It should also reflect the various time horizons. So if you think about the situation we're in today with the pandemic, you have a very short-term horizon. I'll call that H1. And H1 really looks at today, next week, next month, maybe the month after that. So those are real near-term. Second is this interim period, probably 3 to 18 months out until we have a vaccine. And that's going to be a period of great uncertainty, but at the same time, we have to be preparing for the future. And then there's Horizon 3, which goes back to that vision. What ultimately are we trying to achieve? What future state are we trying to get to? So you want to balance across the horizons, and you want to be thinking about, are you building capabilities and capacity? Are you balancing risk and reward? And are you helping the organization become fit for purpose in the future? Now, the other piece is you want to assess, is this resource allocation, is it rigid, is it firm, or is it flexible and adaptive, which is really what you want in a turbulent environment. Now, the next piece is governance. So governance really is looking at the framework, the process by which you make and implement decisions, and figuring out what are the key decisions to be made, how should they be made, is there a framework, where they should be made in terms of a meeting, and who. So it used to be just strategy, looking at things strategically, which was longer term, and operations, which was shorter term. And we talked about that interim horizon. Now you want to make sure you actually have time to talk about each of these, because it's very easy to get caught up in the crisis and just think short term. You want to look at what's the frequency of these meetings. Now, operational, you're going to have more often. Looking at the interim, you're going to have a little more often. And then as you look at strategic, you want to always have that in mind. So it's really looking at all three horizons. Now, the purpose of governance is you want to have a forum to discuss issues, decide on them, act, review performance, and learn from that performance. You want to make sure you have the right people in the room to actually do those things. So you want to ask, how are we doing on that respect? Are we creating value through governance, or is it a control which holds us back? You want governance to be robust and effective, and you want it to be efficient. Now, as you think about those pieces, again, we're coming back to, so now what? In our next section, we're going to talk about learning and adapting, and we're going to talk about the Office of Strategy Management and Chief of Staff role. Now, the thing you should be taking away is that all these pieces are interrelated and linked. It doesn't go part 1, 2, 3, 4. It might go back and forth between them, especially given the turbulence in our environment. It's not easy to do this, but it's vital. So as you think about this, you need to be asking yourself, Can we do this? Are we capable within the organization? Can we afford not to? And how long will it take? And that's where someone like myself can come in and help guide that, because I've done this with hundreds of organizations in a variety of situations across a variety of industries. So as you think about that, think about booking a discovery call to learn more about this, because that can really get you started. Just remember, the future starts today. So email me at j@jweiser.com or go to www.jweiser.com and book your complimentary consultation. So in our next session, we're going to talk about learning and adapting in the Office of Strategy Management and being Chief of Staff.